A comprehensive explanation of the difference between parametric and non-parametric data.
Article Index. What are statistical tests? Types of statistical tests in scientific research. Conditions for using non-parametric tests. Advantages and disadvantages of non-parametric statistics. The differences between parametric and non-parametric data. Parametric and non-parametric tests.
What is statistics?
Statistics is the science of collecting and analyzing data, and interpreting it in an objective manner, regardless of the quality of the data, whether descriptive or quantitative. The methods of statistics for dealing with types of data and preparing them in statistical ways and methods according to the nature of the data and the method of distributing them are divided into two parts, namely parametric statistics and non-parametric statistics. A quick introduction to what we will discuss in this article: the difference between parametric and non-parametric data and how to deal with them.
What are statistical tests?
Are statistical tests. At the beginning, when a researcher, male or female, conducts a study related to scientific research and applies the practical part of the research, the researcher collects a set of data and information from a sample of the target community. To reach results, the objectives and hypotheses of the study are discussed. Good. How can a set of primitive data and information be transformed into results that discuss theories and hypotheses? The answer is statistical tests, as they are a set of operations and mathematical and statistical methods for processing and analyzing data. To obtain a summary of the results that the researcher uses to infer the objectives of the study, answer its questions, and verify its hypothesis. Such as the t-test, ANOVA, Mann-Whitney U, Kruskal-Wallis and others. Each of them has a specific use and type of data that it deals with, and we will discuss some of them in more detail, before clarifying the difference between parametric and non-parametric data.
Types of statistical tests in scientific research.
Types of statistical tests in scientific research. As we mentioned previously in the introduction to the article, statistical methods are divided into two main sections, which are parametric statistics and non-parametric statistics. Each of them has conditions for their use and tests specific to each section. Therefore, the tests are also divided into two parts, which are parametric tests and non-parametric tests, respectively.
Parametric tests.
Parametric tests. They are the most famous and best used statistical tests. They are applied to a set of data that follows a normal distribution and deal with all types and sizes of data. The researcher can extract a large number of results and data for his study. We will show some examples. T-test. It is a parametric test to calculate the difference between the variables of the study sample, and it has three types. One sample t-test. It is used to study the hypothesis and the existence of differences between the sample mean and the default value for the study population. Two sample t-test. It is used to study the hypothesis and the existence of differences between the averages of two independent samples and the averages of the two study populations. Paired sample t-test. It is used to study the hypothesis and the existence of differences between the means of two samples and the means of two interconnected study populations. Analysis of variance test, ANOVA. It is a parametric test to study and calculate the difference between study variables, but in the case of more than two values for a variable. Simple correlation coefficient, Pearson, to study the strength and direction of the relationship between two variables.
Non-parametric tests.
Non-parametric tests. These are tests that deal with a set of data that does not follow a normal distribution, randomly distributed data, which affects the quantity of results extracted, and this makes it an alternative to parametric tests. That is, if parametric tests are not met to deal with the data, non-parametric tests are used, along with some other conditions. If they are met during data processing, non-parametric tests are used, which will be discussed in the next point. But before listing the conditions for using non-parametric statistical tests, and clarifying the difference between parametric and non-parametric data, let us review some tests corresponding to the previously mentioned parametric tests. Mann-Whitney U test. It is a non-parametric test to calculate the difference between the variables of the study sample, and it is analogous to the parametric test, t-test. Kruskal-Wallis test. It is a non-parametric test to study and calculate the difference between study variables in the case of more than two values for a variable. Yes, it is the counterpart to the parametric test, ANOVA. Spearman correlation coefficient, studying the strength and direction of the relationship between two variables, which is analogous to the simple Pearson correlation coefficient.
Conditions for using non-parametric tests.
Conditions for using non-parametric tests as a complement to non-parametric tests. There are some conditions for using these tests on a dataset. 1 small sample of the study population. 2. There are no conditions for the study population, such as the dataset following a normal distribution or homogeneity of population variance. 3. More convenient for dealing with nominal and ordinal data.
Advantages and disadvantages of non-parametric statistics.
Advantages and disadvantages of non-parametric statistics. Although parametric tests are more commonly used, non-parametric tests have some advantages when compared to parametric tests, as follows. 1. Ease of processing descriptive and ordinal data that cannot be interpreted. 2. Because one of the conditions for using non-parametric tests is a small sample size, the results are processed and analyzed very quickly. 3. The data is very easy to understand and deal with due to the way it is collected randomly, without standards that must be taken into account. 4. The lack of assumptions and verification makes it easier to use than parametric. Disadvantages of using non-parametric tests. 1. If the sample size is large, it is difficult to apply non-parametric methods in tests. 2. The accuracy of parametric tests such as the mean and standard deviation is greater than the accuracy of non-parametric tests. 3. The lack of population conditions and the small sample size make relying on it more than relying on parametric tests, and this contradicts the previous point. It has been shown that parametric tests are more accurate in their results than non-parametric tests.
What is the difference between parametric and non-parametric data?
What is the difference between parametric and non-parametric data? From the points mentioned above, dear researcher, you now know the difference between parametric and non-parametric data, so let us quickly explain it in several points. Naturally, the smaller the sample size, the less accurate the results. This point is considered the biggest point that explains the difference between parametric and non-parametric data. Parametric data, large size, is considered more reliable for more accurate results than non-parametric data, small size. Parametric data is in quantitative form, that is, expressed by a number, and is analyzed and processed using parametric tests, while non-parametric data is in nominal and ordinal form, and is analyzed and processed using non-parametric tests. Parametric data are data that follow a normal distribution and there is homogeneity of variance for the study population, while non-parametric data does not require this. Parametric statistical tests are better than non-parametric tests. In terms of the accuracy of the results, it is therefore preferable to deal with parametric data over non-parametric data. Parametric data and its natural moderation feature require assumptions to study society, unlike non-parametric data that does not require assumptions, and this point must be taken into account in the research study.
Challenges related to collecting and using parametric and non-parametric data.
Challenges related to collecting and using parametric and non-parametric data. There are some challenges in the data collection, processing, and analysis phase that the researcher must take into account in order to achieve accurate results that serve the research study. 1. Understanding the nature of the study before starting to implement the information collection tool, and determining the method to be taken, so that the nature of the data that will be collected can be controlled. 2. When creating a data collection tool, such as a questionnaire, it must be noted that the answers of the sample members are confidential to preserve the individual's privacy. 3. Ensuring the collection of correct data related to the study, which is processed and analyzed using correct statistical methods. 4. Stay away from ambiguous terms and words that carry double meanings. For ease of understanding by members of the community sample. 5. The items used in the data collection method, whether questionnaire, interview, or observation, must be accurate in the data to be collected, avoid information that is not useful in the study, and avoid repeating questions. 6. Training teachers on the use and application of analysis.